Welcome to the podcast, everybody. I am your host, Penn Street, and I want to always give out a shout out to Audio Information Network of Colorado, because without them, this podcast, Aftersight, would not be possible. I also want to thank the entire team at Audio Information Network of Colorado that works so hard behind the scenes. All of you get to hear my voice, but there is literally a team behind me that makes sure that this gets out every single week. Today's guest is Robert Lamm, and I met Robert just a few weeks ago. And I don't know if any of you have ever had this happen. When you meet somebody, you just feel something in your heart, your gut, that they are an extraordinary human being and you want to get to know them more. This happened to me when I met Robert and his guide dog, and I am so grateful that Robert agreed to come on today and to share his journey with us. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Penn. Thank you very much for having me, and the team. Thank you all for having me.
You are welcome. Well, Robert, I like to, kind of start off the podcast with just some fun quick fire questions, just so that we all get to know you a little bit more about you and have a little bit of fun before we get started. Question number 1, live concert or download?
Live concert every time.
Okay. I know, because people say, oh, you can't see very well. Why do you need to go to a concert? I totally agree with you. It's the energy of the crowd and the band. And
you can feel the music.
Absolutely. And the energy of the crowd. That's what I love. Getting that feedback. Okay. Cake or pie?
Pie.
Pie. Okay. I'm the opposite on that one with you. I like cake. My husband, however, loves any kind of fruit pie. So this one is, it's always fascinated me since I was a little kid. I really, really love music. And so it always fascinates me when I ask this question, what people answer. If you had a theme song, what would it be?
What I Got by Sublime.
Ooh, that's good. All right. So let's dive in. Robert, I understand that you are fairly new to vision loss, but besides vision loss, you've also had to make some other very big decisions in your life besides your diagnosis. You've had some mutual, challenges come up in your life, and can you share with us? And I think this might have been your words, your restoration journey, like how it began, where you are in it now.
I don't believe I've used restoration journey, but just all around mutual recovery journey. I'm recovering from multiple things at once, I'd like to say.
Okay.
So you actually, I don't believe you know what led to my other situation. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start when I was about 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
Cool. So in October of 2008, I was actually hit by a car that was going 45 miles an hour. And I was walking. I was on my way to boxing lessons, my first day going to spar, actually. And I broke my femur in my right leg, broke both bones in my lower left leg, multiple ribs, 80% road rash, cracked my skull.
Wow.
I was even 2 minutes from Lutheran Hospital, and they took me half an hour to St. Anthony's for the trauma center. And that trauma center is the only reason I'm here today.
Wow.
They also had some very good trauma surgeries or trauma surgeons they brought in. And they had told my dad and I, we only had like a 2 to 5% chance of my ever walking again without aid heading into that surgery.
My goodness.
And I was barely functionable with all the adrenaline going. But that's the first moment I remember looking at my dad, and no words said, just with eye contact. I knew we'd get through it together, whatever it was.
Oh, my goodness. How long were you in the hospital?
About 5 days.
Wow.
That wasn't actually, they kicked me out as soon as I was able to really healthily function, and the surgery looked good.
Wow.
So yeah, they put a bar in my left arm so I could push my wheelchair. They tried fixing my growth plate in my right leg. I had to have a follow-up surgery, 2 follow-up surgeries within the next years. And the only real issue I've had from it, I'm fully walking now. I
Yeah.
recovered faster than they thought. And my right leg is about an inch and a half shorter than my left.
Wow. And I didn't even notice that when I met you. I didn't, that
Oh
was
man,
not apparent at
I ha-
all.
I have my insoles made for me, my custom insoles, and really just I've had to adapt a lot with that over time. But what the part that you knew about that led to a lot of self-medicating when I was younger and in high school. So definitely it led to a lifestyle change more than it did a physical change.
So you turned to alcohol and drugs to just help get through the day to day. Was it because of the pain that your body was in, or mentally, or a combination?
I would call it I first excused it for the pain.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to bond with my dad, so right into high school, my dad and I started bonding through drinking. He
Mm,
helped me through that huge trauma, and that trauma affected his life too, of course, as a single
yeah.
father.
Yeah.
So that really led to us not having a regular bonding method. And once we were able to kind of self-medicate and do that together, it really kept me at home. It provided a safe place with my dad, so we thought.
Mm,
And in hindsight, it was just really kind of constricting me and keeping me stuck at home even more.
wow. And were you still living in Denver at the time?
Yes, I was living in Wheat Ridge, just outside of Denver.
Okay. Okay. So what happened then to make that transition into sort of this self-comforting, place in your life with you and your dad to I mean, where you are right now seems so far away from that person.
Oh, it's night and day, 100 days in.
Yeah.
Um, really, that has been a huge journey. I I started working at a garden center with my dad when I was 16, and that's when I thought I was doing pretty good. 16 to 18, I didn't really think there was too much of an issue yet.
Yeah.
But by the time I was supposed to graduate high school, I was getting in enough trouble with the school system and just my general lifestyle that I went ahead and got my GED instead of staying in school. And in hindsight, I could have gotten my GED a year earlier and gone into college
Mm,
had I had the actual drive to pursue college at that age.
right. Right. Did the garden center help you because I know a lot of people use planting and growing things to kind of see the world a little bit differently. Was that kind of the beginning of you seeing that there was a problem?
All around, it was the biggest blessing in disguise of my life working at that garden center. I met some I met a few coworkers who I definitely picked up on a not the best lifestyle. Uh, my dad had always taught me though to always do work before anything else, take pride in your work, to take pride in how you present yourself. And my dad and I, we would drink after work, yes, but before work or whenever something professional needed done, he always taught me to put my best face on and to be my best self.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your transition to um making
It was a long one. It was really my vision loss, to be quite honest with you.
mm,
In August of 2018, about 8 years of working at the garden center, I finally had to leave there after having a DUI the year before.
wow.
Everything was starting to go downhill starting in 2017 and 2018. That DUI, that's when I really essentially gave up the privilege to drive for the rest of my life, and I never knew it. I thought
Wow.
since we lived at work, we had a property on the garden center that we lived on.
Yeah.
So I just lived at work and I was super privileged in that regard. I
Yeah.
thought I never had to drive. So I was like, oh, you'll just figure out how to drive later once you get your stuff together. But my probation officer for my DUI never requested a single breathalyzer or a single UA. I had no accountability. And that lack of accountability essentially led to me potentially drinking myself blind. Uh, I was diagnosed with Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy in May of 2019.
Wow.
And my optoneurologist pretty much just told me we have nothing that we can confirm triggers the mutation of the genes because it's a genetic mutation of the optic
Right.
nerve.
Right.
But very often heavy alcohol consumption, especially in younger men, is likely a trigger.
Wow. That there by itself, like if you didn't have the other issues, like that itself would knock somebody off their life journey.
Exactly. So the last day of my regular working was March 16th of 2019. It took 2 months from January, or 3 months from January through March, of my vision degrading. And it got to the point where I couldn't count fingers 2 feet in front of my face. I couldn't see who my boss was without asking him his name.
Wow.
And I really thought it was a bad hangover or a side effect from some alcohol or something.
Wow.
So I got a medical leave of absence. At this point, it was roughly 16 to 18 months after my DUI. And since my DUI, I had been calling every rehab and detox facility in the metro area for about once a month, asking to get into their program. I needed a medical detox.
Right.
And with my insurance, they kept turning me back. I had never had a seizure yet. I wasn't priority enough.
Oh, wow.
So once I had my vision loss so bad I couldn't work anymore, I went to Lutheran, a major hospital in Wheat Ridge. They did a CAT scan, MRI, spinal tap, the whole 9 yards. They had no answers for me. They still turned me around.
Wow.
They wouldn't even enter me into the detox until I got an answer on my vision. So about two more months of searching with 8 different optoneurologists, we finally got a diagnosis.
So was that a relief then that you actually had a diagnosis? Because I would have I would have felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy.
Oh, 100%. There was 2 months of not working. Working was the only thing that provided stability in my life. I was living with my dad, and my mom had her own medical issues. She was living with us at the time, trying to help me out.
Yeah.
And it was just uncomfortable at home. I had no identity. I had pretty much lost all identity of self until I got that diagnosis.
Wow. So that was really when you began to kind of make these big decisions in your life.
Also, it was partly me and partly whatever spiritual connection I have with the world. At this point, my probation was almost over, and I had 2 more DUI classes left. A young man had just come into those DUI classes. His parents lived in Buena Vista, and they had just sent him to a 3-month rehab in California. They had later gone bankrupt for doing it, I later found out.
Oh my goodness.
And he told me his mom was an RN, and she'd be happy to help me detox if no facility down here would help me.
Wow.
So my dad drove me up to Buena Vista on June 7th of 2019. For some reason, and we pulled weeds all morning in about 100-degree heat up in the mountains. That was my first day not having a morning drink. That was my first day really trying to stay sober, with my dad helping me with that.
Right.
And I almost had a seizure at the lunch table. I remember I couldn't hold a cup of water without shaking the water and the ice out of it.
Wow.
And that's how bad my first withdrawals were that day. And I think my dad was so scared seeing those withdrawals. I really don't know how he felt. I'd like to talk to him someday about that.
Yeah.
And he drove me home, not thinking it was the best environment to leave me in.
Because what he saw was scaring him, I'm guessing.
Oh, yes. I mean, I could only imagine he was full of fear seeing the state I was in.
Yeah.
So we were driving home on 285 right in front of Bandamere Speedway. And if you're not familiar, there's so many accidents there that they almost always have ambulances just running up and down that stretch of highway.
Oh, wow.
And by the fate of whatever God is out there, an ambulance pulled over seeing me seize, and they pulled over right in front of my dad.
Wow.
And they essentially told him, if you don't take him to a detox center tonight, you're going to have a sheriff at your house. So by then I finally came to. I heard that, and I simply told them, thank you. Like, we've been trying for 18 months to get into a center, and it took me going out with my dad, working so hard all day that I had a seizure in order to get accepted into a program. And by fate, too, I had gotten my diagnosis, I think, 11 days before that. From May 28th to June 11th was my diagnosis to my last drink.
Oh, wow. You just are celebrating your 2-year then, right? Or 3
Actually,
year?
3 year.
3 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just had my third.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That is huge. I had no idea. Robert, thank you so much. This is,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, yeah, that was just a huge turning point. I went into my rehab program or my detox program on June 8th of 2019. I later exited detox and went back to the actual rehab on June 13th of 2019, my mom's birthday that year.
Oh.
That was kind of my birthday present to her that year, I guess, her driving me in there and dropping me off. And man, that was just the biggest and best journey of my life, finally getting that opportunity when I was truly ready, I think. I think something, whatever power is out there, didn't have me go into rehab until it was time that I was fully ready to accept what I needed to accept.
Yeah, and I know they talk about you have to hit rock bottom, and that rock bottom is different for everybody. And man, oh man, I mean, that definitely sounds like a rock bottom where you were.
Oh man, if I don't take the 20 minutes to tell my full story to some people, they might. I've been criticized being called a high bottom before, and that's good criticism if you ask me. But once I get in my full story with people, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was not a high bottom."
No, it's not. It's not.
So,
And it is relevant with everybody. Somebody's, rock bottom is different than somebody else's rock bottom. And so I don't think people should say that you're a high bottom. That's terrible.
I'm grateful that I found that bottom at such a young age. I have so much life ahead of me. I found out.
Yeah.
I'm able to go back to school now at a young age where I'm still able to adapt more, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be more grateful for how young I was when I sobered up.
So you're a student now at CSU, correct? You were going
Yep.
to Front Range Community College, and
Yeah, the last 3 semesters is going to Front Range.
yeah, and it sounds like what sort of tools were you searching for, or that came into your life to really help you get back, like you said, go back to college, get into college and pursue your academics?
So I felt pretty hopeless going into rehab, and then rehab had found DVR for me. DVR stands for the Division of Vocational Rehab, and I had no clue they even existed. Their whole purpose, as far as I'm aware, is to really help those with disabilities get back on their feet and join the workforce
Yes.
to become whatever they really feel they can be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a federally funded program, and it really, I've been through it myself, and it's definitely a successful program. So that's how you got started with school, because I know they help you, line up different funding and equipment and training.
Yes and no. They ended up being the one that got me the equipment and all the funding, but not the inspiration. It took about 8 months of being visually impaired before I met my first O&M instructor, which stands for Orientation and Mobility, through DVR.
Okay.
And once I met that O&M instructor, I was actually scheduled to fly out to Leader Dogs for the Blind the next week to get my week of O&M with them.
Wow.
For those that don't know, you need to pass usually a week of O&M training with a guide dog school, or at least prove to them that you're up to date on your O&M before they'll even consider you for a guide dog.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that, because I still get it. I've been using guide dogs for many, many years, and I'll like, well, how does your dog know how to cross the street, or when can it tell when the light is green? And I'm like, no.
The dog is essentially a tool. We are the one using the tool.
Yeah, we have to know where we are. We have to know when it's safe to cross. And you're right. You need that really strong foundation of cane travel and orientation mobility before you can get a dog.
Yeah. So between that happened in February of 2020. Then I also toured the CCB, the Colorado Center for the Blind, in January of 2020. So between going to Leader Dog, seeing the CCB, and hearing all about DVR, I had a really big decision to make.
Yeah.
Whether I was going to because the CCB, for those that don't know, it's essentially a 9-month residential program where for those of us that do have some residual vision, as I do, you're blindfolded so that you're all on an equal training level.
Yes.
And I did not go that route. And that would have definitely been a lot different had we gone that route.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did my week of O&M in Michigan at Leader Dog. And I did so well on my O&M, I actually got to walk a couple dogs while I was out there and meet a couple dogs they had ready for me. And I was scheduled to come back March 17th of 2020 to go get my first Leader Dog.
And we all know what happened in March of
Yep.
2020. Oh,
so,
no.
yeah, March 14th, they called and they canceled my flight. And I was just heartbroken.
Yeah.
One of the programs I had in early recovery was the Phoenix, a sober, active community that I did a lot of rock climbing with. And we could go into a whole separate podcast about how much they helped me.
Yeah, I bet. I too use rock climbing as a mental health tool. I don't know if that's
Wonderful.
the word to do it, but yeah. Yeah.
So, March, everything crashed. I lost my rock climbing. I lost my hope for a new guide dog. I lost all of my recovery meetings, the many platforms I use for recovery meetings. I probably went to 500 meetings in my first year of recovery.
Wow.
And that was pretty devastating. It could have been. But that's the point that I started really working with DVR virtually. Division of Oak Rehab did an amazing job with some all blind teachers teaching me tech virtually once a week, twice a week.
Wow.
My O&M was so up to date from Leader Dog that I just had a few weekly meetings with an O&M instructor that came down and got me solid to the point where I was confident. And I hadn't even considered school at this point. I had gotten back from my O&M at Leader Dog. I was living life in COVID. And that's actually when my mom passed.
Oh my gosh, Robert.
My mom and my dad's relationship was never healthy. They were more friends. So we had helped my mom stay with us for 2 years while she was trying to get better.
Yeah.
And little did we know she was actively using the whole time she was living with us, just killing herself slowly. And once again in March of 2020, I had to call my sister and let her know, like, hey, she's not doing any better over here. She's about due for hospice. Like, we really need to figure some stuff out. So my sister took my mom in, and come mid-May, my sister called me saying, hey, we really need your help. This is the last couple of weeks. We can't do this on our own. And of course, no hospices would take her with COVID.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So
Robert.
I spent my year birthday of my first recovery year, pretty much helping my sister's side of my family with my mom and her withdrawals through hospice. And we didn't even realize she was going through withdrawals until hindsight, after we cleaned her stuff out.
Wow.
So that was just a heck of a couple of weeks, but it was really grateful. I got to learn more about my uncle, who was actually blind, through talking with all my nieces and my sister. I was able to hear more about everything my half sister and I shared in common. She's 18 years older than I am.
Wow.
So those 2 weeks, I couldn't be more grateful for. I finally felt a sense of being with my other side of my family that I had never really felt before.
Yeah, those connections started, right? And
exactly.
Wow.
And school was still never even on my radar through all this stuff with my mom and my sister's side of the family. And at that point, I met my wife. So I met my wife in April of 2020.
Wow.
She offered to drive me out to Grand Junction to help with all this, and I told her no. I took the train.
Yeah.
Leader Dog had inspired me so much with my O&M. I was happy. I was confident to take the train on my own out to Grand Junction.
And I want to tell the audience out there, those of you who are blind or visually impaired and use O&M, to be that confident so early in with your skills is really phenomenal.
And I'm really grateful for the praise, but don't get me wrong, the train was very easy. I took the train much as a younger kid. I had it almost memorized, the layout, and the train is probably one of the most user-friendly and ADA-friendly means of travel, I have to say.
Okay. But I still, accept the
Thank you.
compliment too.
I appreciate it. And so yeah, I was out in Grand Junction and we did a road trip. Basically, I came back and started living my regular life, whatever the new regular was, in July of 2020. And at that point, my mom wasn't there as the buffer anymore between my father and I, who was still actively drinking.
Mm.
And I hadn't been working at the garden center for the last roughly year and a half. Our relationship was really dwindling.
Mm.
And my wife had just gone back to school for her first semester as an adult that last spring. And she really inspired me. I saw the classes she was doing. I saw what she had on her plate.
Yeah.
And I told myself that, man, if DVR is willing to help fund school, if you have nothing but time and your future ahead of you, what is stopping you from going back to school?
Yeah.
And I spent that whole fall semester or fall period of 2020 really buckling down my tech training with DVR, buckling down my O&M just around town. And finally, I got my leader dog in October of 2020. That just really opened everything for me. Getting my leader dog 100% inspired me that with him by my side, there's really no challenge I can't do.
Yeah, I agree. And all of you out there who have guide dogs can definitely grasp what Robert is talking about. There really is nothing more awesomer than having that four-legged fur ball next to you.
So really, earlier, I think you were asking what was the turning point that inspired me to go back to school. And I would say all of COVID and all of life really just kind of pushed me there. Between meeting my wife in COVID, between my mom passing and really meeting the rest of my family, between all of the inspiration that Leader Dog provided for me within those few months, and just really discovering that my future is whatever I want to create of it, not whatever route felt I was stuck on.
Yeah, and what a journey. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. And again, if you just took one of those things, Robert, would have totally derailed somebody to possibly no return. But you just barrier after barrier after barrier just got thrown up in front of you, and each time, and I know hindsight now, you can look back and say, yeah, I did that. But when you're in the middle of those kinds of things, it's hard and it's exhausting and it's a lot of work. And
I remember there was plenty of days with lots of tears and a few breakdowns, but those are the days that really shape us into who we are, I feel, and those are the days that we need to take the most advantage of to learn from.
Absolutely. So you're off for summer break, I'm guessing, or are you taking summer school?
So I was considering some summer school, but I actually recently won a few scholarships that I have a couple conventions planned for this summer. I won a scholarship from the NFB, the National Federation of the Blind, and I also won one from the American Council of the Blind, the ACB.
Wonderful.
So I'll be heading out on June 30th to Omaha, Nebraska, and from there on July 5th, flying to New Orleans for the NFB conference. So I got about 2 weeks of scholarship conferences and some great trips planned this summer that I think kind of outruled summer jobs or summer classes.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really busy, and I'm glad you get to have some fun. Not that school isn't fun, but sometimes when you're in school, that seems to be totally controlling of your life.
Yep. So really just have a couple camping trips planned. Just want to travel with my wife, spend some good time with my dog, and really get a nice mental health refresher before transferring to CSU this fall.
Wow. That's a big transition in itself.
It is. And for those of you that don't know that either, you can't just, well, you can, but you don't want to just take your guide dog to a brand new school and start working someday. I had a transfer celebration last spring, and I'm glad I had that. I have a few tours scheduled this summer.
Okay.
And I'm going to be working with my O&M instructor, actually practicing my schedule just to make sure I have that kind of routine implemented.
That's great.
Those are kind of some of the extra steps that it takes me as a student, is making sure to practice my map ahead of time, make sure I have all my books and all my tech weeks ahead of time, just in case any issues arise.
And that's a really good point, because even seasoned blind people, you still, if you're going into a new job, a new community, whatever it is, it takes those extra steps to realize where you are, what you need, make sure you have sort of all those boxes checked. You don't have to, right? You don't have to, but it is so much less stressful knowing those things ahead of time, and knowing that you're prepared. Not that things won't happen that'll surprise you, but yeah, prepared. Well, Robert, how can people reach out to you if they have questions for you, or just want to maybe share something about themselves with you?
For now, I really just have my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts that I mainly check on regularly. I plan on making a new YouTube account to follow my slacklining activities, hopefully later this summer or fall. I don't have a name for that one yet, but I plan on creating the same tag as my Instagram and Twitter, Rasta Robin 713.
And again, that's Rasta Robin, RASTAROBIN 713. And Robert, can you share a little bit? You taught yourself to slackline during COVID, right? I mean, a lot of people
Exactly.
were learning to bake bread or knit, or here you are out there. I cannot, I have no balance because I have a little bit of vision in my peripheral in my left eye, but that almost makes it worse because it gives me zero depth perception. What made you want to do slacklining?
So just for everyone's perspective, I do have about 5 degrees of what I call usable vision. And
Okay.
that usable vision is roughly 20/200 on a good day, 20/400 on a bad day.
Yeah.
So I can still see a big tree ahead of me if I really focus on it. And that's the main thing I remember learning when I was taught to slackline when I still had vision, is don't look at the line below you, but look at your anchor point that's solid ahead of you. Kind of the same thing they teach people to avoid seasickness.
Yeah.
And
that's actually good advice for life in general, right?
It really is. And my old boss, when I was still drinking, had one in his backyard, and I would always just never take it seriously. I would always fall. And I remembered the similarities it had to rock climbing. So once my rock climbing was taken away from me, I was like, how do I do something independently in my front yard that resembles this?
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to build a wall in my backyard. So I looked up slacklining, and I just told myself, I'm going to do this. I don't care how much I fall the first week. I'm going to learn it.
And I bet you fell a lot.
My dad came out. We had a beautiful front yard of beautiful lush grass, and he got me a good walking stick. And just for 3 days, he watched me fall on my face and fall on my side. But just like life, you have to learn to stand before you can learn how to walk.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to walk before you can learn how to turn around.
Wow.
And so many metaphors from slacklining have just helped me with my recovery of vision loss and addiction simultaneously.
Wow.
I started off on a short line close to the ground to avoid big injuries.
Yeah.
And now I'm on what the professionals use, a 1-inch wide line. I just got a new ratchet. I can confidently do lines up to 100 feet right now.
Wow.
I'm working on how to sit start and do longer lines. I really beat myself up at the park last week, still 2 years in, trying to learn how to sit start. So my goal with this is to get to where I can high line with some people that can help me learn how to rig a high line and confidently drive to the mountains.
Wow. Yeah.
So if there are any highliners out there, there is a slackliner here that is very confident in his current skills, looking forward for some help.
All right, you heard that. Check out Robert on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook and reach out to him, because you definitely have the heart and the tenacity to make that happen, that goal happen. Robert, do you have a question for me? This is your chance to ask Penn Street a question.
Penn, at the beginning of this interview, you said you had something that you shared with me that you didn't really know ahead of time, that you didn't know when we met. Would you like to share that at all, or?
Sure. Yeah. So when I met Robert, there was just this connection that I felt with him. I mean, not creepy connection, but just like there's something about him that I feel I have in common, or there's some type of connection. And I too used alcohol and drugs. And again, same thing as a teenager, in the beginning, because I've shared about my Stevens-Johnson syndrome diagnosis and living with that, which comes with a lot of pain. And so is that, at first, from age 9, they started giving me narcotics, for the pain. And then of course, as I became older and in my teenage years, there was all the other other things that were much easier, and also I was very shy and timid, and with my vision loss, and that the alcohol and drugs really gave me a place to shine, that I thought, I now had friends and I was going to parties and all this, but really not. I mean, that's what addiction does. It really takes over, and you don't really see that world outside. And lucky for me, luck, faith, whatever you want to call it out there. I met my husband, Moses, and he opened a door for me that I didn't even know was there. And I knew that I couldn't walk through that door as an addict.
Exactly.
And it, again, the grace of God, or whatever everybody wants to call their higher power, that energy that's out there. I got into a rehab program, and at first they didn't want to take me. They didn't. I was the youngest person they ever accepted into the program.
And I can imagine you were one of their first visually impaired as well.
Absolutely, which I think scared them more than my age. And but they met my parents, and my parents were in total she'll be okay. She just needs to, do something, that she needs to focus on school more, even though I was a straight A student, which I don't know how I pulled that off. But, they felt like there were other options for me, and that my addiction wasn't that serious. But the program knew I was my health, not only my mental health, but physical health, was in grave danger at that point. And so they accepted me in, and, very similar, this whole world was out there that I didn't even know that existed. And oh my gosh, I could be part of it. And very similar, I got into DVR, learned about DVR, and the NFB and AFB and all these different things. And so it's just crazy, the parallels. And 30 plus years later, here I am, living a life way beyond my dreams, getting to meet just amazing people. And I wouldn't change a moment of all the darkness that happened before I went through treatment and recovery.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Penn. I really appreciate that. And I couldn't help but hear just the similarities that just vision loss and other disabilities in general share with addiction, and just that level of acceptance when you really start asking for help is when you can get the help.
Exactly.
And we don't have to be ashamed to get the help either. We can become our new selves once we get that help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think people with disabilities, there's almost an extra wall with getting help, because, especially with vision loss, you can't just jump in your car and go to a meeting, or,
Oh man, going to a meeting can take me 4 hours on a hot afternoon with my black guide dog.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people understand, like, that takes a lot more out of my day.
Yes. Absolutely. And then you going through it with COVID, having that all jerked out, but you found a way.
So, early into my rehab program, I was at an all-inclusive rehab, and one of the programs I mentioned earlier was the Phoenix, a sober active community, and they had a rock climbing wall there. And my rock climbing instructor, he climbed in Clear Creek, and I think who he climbed right next to many a times, Eric Lionmayer.
Of course.
And this guy Jay, he was showing me what
Oh, I know
512s or
Jay.
Jay Treblehorn.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing gentleman.
Yes.
Really incredible. And he was telling me how he'd be climbing 512s in Clear Creek, and Eric would be on the same route, taking 3 times longer with his vision, and how he couldn't imagine the strength Eric had doing so.
Yes.
So Jay saw my partial vision, and he saw my nerves, and he told me, Rob, you have nothing to be nervous about. We're getting you up on that wall, and you're going to do it just fine. So ever since then, in early recovery too, the No Barriers podcast was the only visually impaired
Yep.
formatted podcast I was aware of at the time.
Yeah.
And some of the stories I heard through No Barriers, those were some of the stories that really inspired my current athletic journey, really inspired the fire I have within me. And there's so many organizations like that I want to give back to.
Yes.
So even this fall, I think you shared on your Facebook the Find Your Summit event.
Yes.
And I'm really looking forward to hopefully going to the Find Your Summit event, meeting Eric, and letting him know how much he uplifted me through my early vision loss.
Well, I will make sure that happens.
Thank you.
Eric is a great friend, and yeah, he has definitely helped me through some very dark times. And I would not be here today, and I would not be the person I am today if it wasn't for people like Eric that went out and did these remarkable hard things and shared it with us. And that's why I really wanted to start Aftersight. Eric was a big inspiration in that, because there wasn't anything out there telling stories about people who are overcoming their barriers in life. And it's hard. It's not everybody, I'm sure they do it with you, Robert. They see you and you seem like you got your stuff together and you're inspiring. But it's still, there are days, there are moments that are still dark and scary. And, but that's why I wanted to start this podcast, is that for that same reason why Eric wanted to started No Barriers podcast is to share those stories so that people will know they're not in this alone. There is a community out there, and there are answers. If you're willing to put in the work, the life is there for you. So
exactly. And I know not everybody's journey may look like mine or yours, but they can pick their own journey and they can have that opportunity. And that's what we all deserve, is our own journey.
Absolutely. Well, Robert, do you have like one more little nugget of inspiration or a quote or something that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Maybe not a quote per se, but just a little idea I've been working on recently is that you don't have to be happy to live a life full of joy. Happiness seems to be usually materialistic, related to a person, a place, or a thing. And really, joy can be more of a spiritual mindset. And even if you don't consider yourself spiritual, you can always find a life of joy no matter what's going on around you.
Oh, I love that. That definitely touched my heart today. Thank you again, Robert, so much for being on here today and sharing your journey and with all of us. And I knew there was something about you that I wanted to really connect with.
Thank you again for having me, Penn. This is just a great opportunity to try and give back and hopefully provide some resources for those out there with some similarities. And I greatly look forward to meeting you in person next.
Absolutely. So listeners, if you have a suggestion for a guest or a story here at Aftersight, reach out to our podcast producer, Jonathan, JONATHAN, at aincolorado.org. Or if you have feedback for me or my guest, Robert, you can reach me at Penn, PENN, at aincolorado.org. And all of these will be in the podcast notes, including Robert's social media. So you can always reach out to us. And everybody out there, remember to be kind to yourself and find some sort of way to be kind to somebody else. Thank you all, and catch you next week.